So the NCAA season, the Overtime Elite, the G League Ignite, just international basketball is in full swing right now. And we're finally going to kind of hear about what's going to be going on in the 2024 draft and who the top prospects are in this class. So in today's video, I'm going to be talking about my top 30 prospects going into next year's draft class in 2024. I think it's cool to make this video right now just to look back on and how much this list can change throughout the season. So this is a very tentative ranking. Like I said, this probably will not be the same list. It definitely won't be the same list in June. And a lot of the international prospects, I'm kind of not able to really get a full evaluation until after kind of the NBA season, because then I'll kind of look at more just EuroLeague highlights or if they're in the NBL. So some prospects that I think are fringe, like top 15 or maybe top 20 guys, might not make my ranking right now, but we do have a bunch of international guys in the top 15. So if you guys do enjoy these videos, I would appreciate you dropping a thumbs up and also subscribe, because I will be dropping my first mock draft 1.0 very soon, so you can be on the lookout for that. So let's get into this. All right, so I just have a couple honorable mentions that if you wanted to put like in a top 30, I'm perfectly okay with that. We have Juan Nunez out of Spain, Melvin Ajinka out of France, Aaron Bradshaw out of Kentucky, Riley Kugel out of Florida, and JJ Starling out of Syracuse. So to start off number 30, we do have Trey Alexander from Creighton. Alexander is a little bit on the older side. He is currently a junior shooting guard at Creighton right now, and he's projected to be a solid defender in the NBA. I really like his athleticism for somebody at 6'4". He does have a 6'10" wingspan. He seems like he's well ahead than some of his peers on the defensive side of the ball, and I really like his playmaking ability too. He's an exceptional passer for somebody especially that's not coming in as like a primary point guard, so you definitely have some positional versatility with him. Could play the 1, could play the 2, could play the 3 on the offensive side of the ball. The one knock on him is, will his jumper translate to the next level? He's not shooting all that well at Creighton so far this season. He has been good from the line though, and sometimes that can be an indicator. If they're good from the foul line, that can translate to outside shooting. Next up, we have Dylan Mitchell. He's a 6'8" forward out of Texas. He's currently a sophomore there right now. He could have been a fringe prospect last year, and I'm really glad he didn't declare for the NBA draft. He probably would have been a mid-second rounder, and I think he's definitely pushed his value to becoming a realistic first-round candidate this year for sure. He isn't much of an outside shooter, so you're really getting all your scoring from him in the inside, which he's very efficient at the rim. He's also an exceptional rebounder for somebody at his size at 6'8", can definitely play up on the ball, and I think could be a nice small ball 5 option in the NBA at the next level if developed properly. Next up, we have Rob Dillingham from Kentucky. He's a freshman point guard. Going into the year, I don't think he was cracking this top 30, and that's why I'm excited that this list will change over time, because he's coming in at number 28. He could really shoot up into being a lottery prospect by the end of this season, because he's playing just that good at Kentucky so far. Through his first 5 collegiate games this year, he's averaging 16 points, 4 rebounds, and 4.5 assists on crazy good efficiency too for a collegiate point guard. 50% from the field, 46% from 3, and 80% from the line. This guy has been super efficient. He's been just one of the best offensive players in the country so far. And like I said, doing that just 23 minutes a night as a freshman point guard is incredibly impressive. There's a lot of solid point guards in this class, so Dillingham is showing he could be right up there with the best of them. And Kentucky did recently lose to Kansas a couple weeks ago, and he really showed his impact in just 16 minutes a night. I hope he can get more playing time. There's another guard at Kentucky that we'll get to later that kind of limits his playing time a little bit, but yeah, Dillingham has been great so far, and he could definitely be a riser throughout this collegiate season. Coming in at number 27, we have Adem Bona from UCLA. Bona, like Dylan Mitchell before, is a sophomore as well. He is a bruiser inside, and he's listed as a center. He's 6'9", which sometimes you could be like, all right, that's a little bit undersized to be a 5, and he has no outside shot to end up ever being a stretch 4, but he's a physical dude inside, and I think like if you're going to be looking at the back end of the first round, you're trying to draft some of these guys that are physical, can rebound, can hustle, can maybe anchor a defense on a second unit, and Bona could be that guy. He's active with his hands, he's good in the passing lanes, and he's efficient at the rim. You kind of know what you're getting out of him, and I think he's just pretty much going to be a consistent back end of the first round projection, but yeah, we'll see how he can improve throughout his sophomore year. So next up, we do have Mark Mitchell, who is a sophomore at Duke right now, and he's just a really good scorer. He gets score inside, he's physical, he gets his own shots, he's a good rebounder. I think he's like for sure going to be in this like back half of the first round range, and I don't think he has maybe that much upside to ever be a lottery pick, but hey, who knows? If he keeps playing like this, maybe teams will fall in love with him. All right, so coming in at number 25, we have somebody that will definitely be a polarizing prospect, mainly because where he plays, and that's Elliot Cadeau out of UNC. Cadeau is a freshman point guard. He's only averaging around 20 minutes a night. He is coming off the bench for the Tar Heels, and he has been a little bit inconsistent shooting the ball so far this season. He struggled against Villanova the other night. He excelled against Northern Iowa and UC Riverside, and I do think he's a very good playmaker though, and I think we would see these numbers look obviously a lot better if it was a larger sample size and he played more a night, because he's coming off the bench like I mentioned for the Tar Heels, because they got like RJ Davis in that starting lineup. We're very early into Cadeau's collegiate career, so we have a long season ahead for him to evaluate him. I do think right now he's a back end of the first guy if he does end up declaring for the draft. I could also see him as somebody that stays for his sophomore season. Okay, I didn't really know where to rank him. I had Bronny James coming in at number 24. I think before the summer started, we definitely thought of Bronny James as a potential lottery prospect, and then obviously the health scare happened with him before the season even started, so though. I don't want to speculate and even know if he's going to declare, how much he's even going to play for USC this season. But what he did in high school was incredibly impressive. I know a lot of the top draft analysts really loved his style of play. It can really translate to winning basketball and somebody that can do a little bit of everything. So yeah, it's definitely a big TBD on Bronny, and I'm excited to see him play for USC this year whenever that happens. Next up, we have Trayvon Brazile coming in at number 23 out of Arkansas. And Brazile has been rock solid for a good Arkansas team so far this season, even though they did just lose to Memphis the other night. But yeah, Brazile has been efficient so far for the Razorbacks, and he's also been a very good defender as well. He definitely projects to being a 3-and-D guy in the NBA. He is a sophomore right now, and it's just crazy seeing some of these prospects that were born in 2003. Like, I was born in 99, and like that class, you had guys like John Morant that was born like similar to me, and I was like, wow, okay, like I'm getting older than some of these players. Like, I'm older than Zion Williamson, and now just seeing these guys born in 2003, 4, and then potentially 5, it's just like mind-blowing. All right, next up we have Ryan Dunn coming in at number 22 out of Virginia. Dunn has been one of the best players in college basketball this season, in my opinion, when he is on the floor. This guy is a difference maker in so many ways. He also could be the best overall wing defender in this draft class. He is that good. He's averaging 2.5 blocks and 2.8 steals currently for the Virginia Cavaliers this season. We'll see if his jumper ever develops, but he's efficient at least inside and at the rim. And I feel like contending teams that have like a first-round pick, like probably in that 15 to 20 range, that maybe even own it from another team, could really fall in love with him as a prospect. Next up, we have Bobby Klintman, who is currently playing in the New Zealand Basketball League. He played last year at Wake Forest. I don't know if you guys remember, like, closer to the NBA draft, like, Kevin O'Connor came out and said that he was going to be, like, a lottery pick, and everyone was like, what? Like, he was even projected to be a top 40 guy, and then that gained some steam, and then he was like, nope, I'm not even going into the NBA draft. I'm going to play internationally. He's definitely still a raw prospect. I mean, he's 6'10". He's supposed to be a forward, so he could play a bunch of positions on the defensive side of the floor. He could be a good rebounder, good shot blocker. I do think that there is a lot of risk, though, with Klintman as a prospect, and there's a bunch of those every year, so we'll see kind of what team takes a risk on him, and I wonder where he's going to be, if he's going to rise or fall throughout this season. Next up, we have Baba Miller, a sophomore forward out of Florida State. Miller's seen his role expand this year, going from year 1 to year 2 for the Seminoles, and he's off to a solid start this year. He's been consistent enough from the field. He's a good defender. He's a solid rebounder. He actually has solid court vision for somebody of his size as well. And like Klintman, like a 6'11" forward, man, that is very enticing to draft. You can develop him in the right way, and he could be like a great pick and roll option too if you already have your lead point guard or even a great point guard on your second unit. So I feel like Miller's gonna have a ton of discourse throughout this season as well. Next up, we have Jared McCain coming in at number 19, one of many Duke Blue Devils on this list. McCain is off to a subpar start this season. He has not done great so far for the Blue Devils, but I think it's gonna come with time. I think he was going to be inefficient from the start. That's pretty much everything I read up on him, or just kind of watching him a little bit before this year started in scrimmages or stuff from high school. It is a talented point guard class, like I mentioned. We've already talked about Bronny. We've already talked about Elliot Cadeau. So like McCain, if he struggles, can really get lost in the shuffle here and really kind of drop to like being a second-round pick. But I still think the potential is there. But when I'm remaking this list in like April or May, and he still ends the season with really bad efficiency and he doesn't really progress on the defensive side of the ball or as a playmaker, it's going to be tough to value him as a first-round guy. All right, we got another point guard here coming in at number 18, and that's Marco Jackson out of Kansas. Jackson, like McCain, has been off to an inefficient start this season, but he is a very good free throw shooter, so I do think his jump shot will at least translate at some level. He's a good playmaker. I think he could be a very good player in transition as well at the NBA level, especially if he gets on a team with that likes to run and has a really high pace rating. But he doesn't really turn over the ball. He's a good facilitator. He's a good free throw shooter. Some of the pros right now for him, like I said, though, inefficient just from the field and from three, so he's definitely going to have to work on that this year. And obviously, there's going to be a lot of spotlight on him as well, just because of how good Kansas is. Next up, we have Cody Williams coming in at number 17 out of Colorado. And yeah, Cody Williams is actually the brother of Jalen Williams, J-Dub on the OKC Thunder. So that is pretty cool as well. And Williams is somewhat of a similar prospect to his brother. I don't think he's as polished as J-Dub was coming out of Santa Clara, but I definitely think there is some similarities. And Cody Williams is extremely young. He's going to be a raw prospect, I think, at the start. But he's a solid rebounder. He can get his own shots. I like the way he's able to move kind of with the ball in his hands. I don't know if he'll ever be like an elite three-point shooter, but I think he could be pretty average from downtown. Next up, we have Khalil Ware out of Indiana. He was possibly a lottery guy going into last year's collegiate season, but he really struggled at Oregon, and then he transferred to Indiana this year, where he's been off to a solid start. He's probably going to be up there in the Naismith Player of the Year conversation. He's a good rebounder. He's a good defender, good shot blocker, can really score inside. But the thing about him that differentiates him from some of these other forwards at big men in this class is he's a good three-point shooter. Yes, he's actually going to have some type of jumper this year and at the NBA level, and that's going to be very valuable when teams are deciding between two big man prospects, and they're like, all right, he can space the floor. That is going to be very good in our type of offense and the half-court sets that we run, so that is definitely going to give Ware the upper edge on some of the other big man prospects in this class. All right, next up, we have Jacoby Walter, the guard out of Baylor. Walter has been a sharpshooter this year for the Baylor Bears as a freshman. His jumper looks so good. He's projected to be probably one of the better shooters in this class, especially at the two-guard position, which is going to be very valuable at the next level. Obviously, they had somebody maybe a little bit similar last year in Keontae George coming out of Baylor, who I think was a little bit more inconsistent at this time we are now for Jacoby Walter. And Walter's pretty much done everything this year, maybe besides pass the ball. I think that's kind of one con for him, as he can get some tunnel vision sometimes. He's kind of elite in all facets of the game. He's just good overall from the field, at the rim, from 2, from 3, and from the line. And he could be a top 10, maybe even a top 5 prospect at the end of the season. Coming in at number 14, we have a prospect that I love, and it pains me to say because I'm still kind of a UNC fan, but it's going to be Tyrese Proctor out of Duke. Man, Proctor is just going to be NBA ready right away. He's a sophomore for the Duke Blue Devils, and he could kind of project as a combo guard because he's 6'5", but he handles the ball very well. He's a phenomenal playmaker. He's efficient from the field. He's a good defender, and he's just a winning player, man. His basketball IQ is up there, and I think he's for sure going to be a lottery pick, and I can't wait to see him at the NBA level. All right, coming in at number 13, we have another Duke Blue Devil. It's going to be Kyle Filipowski. If you remember, Filipowski was going to be a first-round pick in last year's draft, but then he decided to stay another year at Duke, and I definitely think that's going to help his value because I think he's going to be a lottery pick for sure this season. He's been great so far for Duke. And like Khalil Ware, he's a good shooter, man. He's shooting 40% from downtown right now. Add on about 7 rebounds, almost 2 assists, over steal and block a night, and NBA teams are going to love that as a prospect. We got another big man here at number 12, and that's Donovan Clingan out of UConn. Clingan is very similar, I think, to Filipowski as a prospect, just besides the outside shooting, because Clingan is not going to be a shooter at the NBA level. I do think he's going to be a better rim protector and a better shot blocker, and I think that's what NBA teams will find valuable because he has done great so far at that side of the ball for UConn this season. Next up, we have Zachary Rasacher out of France. Apologize if I butchered that a little bit, but in the few games and clips and highlights that I've seen so far, he definitely has a ton of potential. I'm not going to compare him to like a Bilal Coulibaly, but it's definitely somebody that's going to come over and I don't think make like an immediate impact right away and be somebody that you're going to really rely on to have a really good rookie season. There's definitely going to be some ups and downs, but he's definitely a name to keep an eye on, and I'm excited to watch and learn more about him as the season progresses. All right, to start off the top 10, we have Isan Almansa, who is our first G League Ignite player, and he has fallen a little bit. I had him a little bit higher a few weeks ago. He's now down at 10. He may be down at 15 or 20 in a couple of weeks because he's not been off to a great start for the G League Ignite this season. He's been inefficient. His defense hasn't really been there that I thought it would be, and the reason he's really ranked as high is because of the preseason hype he had. So like I said, if he continues to play like this, he's going to be one of the bigger fallers in this class. Coming in at number 9, we have one of my favorite prospects in this class. It's Ade Mara out of UCLA. So Mara had some, I think, like issues trying to get over from Spain to play for the Bruins this season. Finally did, and he hasn't played too much, only 10 minutes per game, but I think he is going to be such a polarizing prospect due to just his size. He is massive. He's 7'3", 250 pounds, and going to be an elite shot blocker. Elite. I don't think he's really comparable to like Derek Lively was last year, because Lively was definitely more polished, I think, coming out of Duke than Mara will be out of UCLA, but I think Mara has more offensive upside than Lively did, and he's been super efficient so far. I kind of want to see him start taking a couple of jumpers because I do think he has that in his game. So we'll see about Mara. Hopefully we see more than 11 minutes per night throughout the season, but I'm sure they're going to just kind of ramp him up over time since he had like a late start to camp and everything. Coming in at number 8, we have Justin Edwards, the shooting guard out of Kentucky. Edwards has been off to a solid start this year. It's been nothing crazy from him. I think people did project him to be somewhat of like a 3-and-D guy. He has struggled from 3 so far this season at 23%. Maybe not even a 3-and-D guy, also just kind of more like as a shot creator, and he's going to be able to play defense, and he could knock down some threes. He's been good from 2 this season, so his poor 3-point percentage has weighed down his overall field goal percentage. He's a good free throw shooter, so hopefully that will translate to his downtown shooting, and I think he's going to be a very good defender at the next level due to him being 6'7", and I really kind of like his defensive prowess. All right, coming in at number 7, we have Nikola Topic. Yes, we have a Nikola Jokic, we have a Nikola Jovic, now we got a Nikola Topic, and Topic has rised up draft boards as of late. I don't even know if he was going to be like a consensus top 20 guy before this international season started, and he has been phenomenal so far playing in Serbia. He's averaging 19 points, 6.5 assists, shooting 52% from the field, 32% from 3, and 86% from the line over there, which is very impressive, and he's still just 18 years old. He's going to be 18 on draft night. That's going to be very impressive. I think there's a good chance he's a top 5 prospect at the end of the season. Next up, we have Stephon Castle out of UConn, one of maybe my favorite prospect in this class, and he has been incredible so far for UConn in a very small sample size, though. It's only been 2 games, so we can't really overreact to it, but he's looked good in those 2 games. I think he's somebody that could do a little bit of everything. I'm not going to fully compare him to like a Tyrese Halliburton, but he's going to be able to score, shoot, defend, run in transition, pass, and just be an overall winning player, and that's what I just love in a prospect. All right, coming in at number 5, I wanted to give him kind of the respect. It's been a small sample size. He's not been good so far this season for Kentucky, but it's DJ Wagner, but he is definitely falling at some points. Like, I think I'm very close to saying I like Castle and Topic over him. Like I said, he has struggled in kind of 5 5 games so far as like the lead point guard for the Wildcats. I do think he'll get better as the season goes along. I like his passing ability. I think he's going to be a solid scorer inside. So it's definitely going to be, I think, a roller coaster ride for Wagner this season as a top 10 prospect. All right, coming in at number 4, we have Montes Buzelis, our second G League Ignite prospect. Not our final one, though. And we have really yet to see him so far in the G League Ignite season so far. He'll just turn 20 years old when the season starts next year. He's projected to be one of the better shooters and just overall scorers in this class. So we really have no film to go off on the G League Ignite season, but what he did in high school last year was very impressive. Analysts love him. Teams really loved him as well. Colleges loved him. So I'm very excited to see him when he's finally on the court for the G League Ignite this season. Coming in at number 3, somebody that has definitely risen up draft boards, I feel like, for everybody over the last month, it's Alexander Sarr. Sarr definitely has a ton of potential playing in France right now. He's 7'1". He'll just turn 19 on draft night, and he's projected to be one of the better just overall big men in this class as a shot blocker, as a rim protector, as just an anchor to your defense. We've seen a decent sample size out of him playing in the NBL, similar to like Bobby Klintman this season, and I think he's going to be a top 5 pick in this draft. All right, coming in at number 2, we have Isaiah Collier, the point guard out of USC. He's been incredible so far for the Trojans this year. He's incredibly efficient. He's a phenomenal playmaker, high basketball IQ, high court vision. He's a winning player, man. He is one of your surefire studs in this class. I don't think he'll fall ever below number 3 for me this year. I think there's a better chance he ends up at number 1 at year's end. But at number 1 right now, still, it's Ron Holland of the G League Ignite. Holland actually committed to Texas, decommitted, went to the G League. It's a small sample size this year for them. He has struggled a little bit so far, but the competition in the G League is definitely better than what it is at the collegiate level. His jump shot really hasn't been there so far, but he's 6'8". He'll still be 18 on draft night. I think he is a very high floor as a prospect, and that guarantees him probably a top 5 pick. But man, we just get so much variance right now with the G League prospects, with the overtime prospects, even though there really hasn't been one in the first round talked about right now, like we had the Thompson twins last year. Then you throw international ball in there, and it's just going to be a lot of, I think, discourse for this class throughout the season. I do think that there's some really good prospects in this class. People said the same thing about 2020, that it wasn't a good draft class. There's going to be some solid players in this class for sure. Obviously, there's no Victor Wembanyama at the top, but hey, there could be guys like Isaiah Collier, Ron Holland, even Nikola Topic, Stephon Castle at the end of the year that can really change the course of your franchise. So yeah, that is going to be for me. I hope you guys did enjoy the video. Let me know what you guys think about some of these prospects or my rankings in the comments below. If you guys do enjoy the draft content, I would appreciate you dropping a thumbs up. And like I said, I'll have my first mock draft out soon as well. So yeah, thank you guys all for watching. I love you guys, and I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.